Hi, welcome back. I am sitting at a different side of the table so I don't have the sun on my face. I don't want to close the curtains since I love to have windows in our room, but we don't. So I'm going to enjoy my windows at home. And if you look at the weird patterns on the wall of the light back there, that's because I have a skylight in my living room. I got the idea from being in our classroom. It's by the same company that did our class ones, except this one is a circle instead of a square, but I love it a lot. Anyway, we're on back to the potato chip puzzles. Oops. And page 3. It's going to take a while to get through this book. Winston! Mrs. Lavetta all but screamed in his ear. Winston jerked like a freshly caught fish, nearly falling out of his chair. The other kids in study hall laughed. Mrs. Lavetta was standing in front of him with her hands on her hips. What, yes? Winston tried to regain his wits. He knew what had happened, though. Sometimes he became so absorbed in a puzzle that the world around him simply faded away. Mrs. Lavetta must have called him once or twice from the comfort of her chair. Then when Winston didn't answer, said his name louder, and louder still, and then she finally came over and yelled at him. The next step might have been to hit him with a textbook. The kids laughed, but Mrs. Lavetta wasn't laughing. You are wanted down at the principal's office. Didn't you hear the announcement? She pointed at the loudspeaker on the wall. Winston reddened. It was worse than he thought. The loudspeaker, which was indeed loud, had barked his name and he hadn't heard it at all. Whoa, that had to be some kind of record. Wait a minute. The principal's office wanted to see him? Why does the principal want to see me? He asked. I don't know, Mrs. Lavetta said. It's a loudspeaker. You can go, or you can't have a conversation with a speaker. Ask when you get down there. Now, go. Was he in trouble? He couldn't see how. Was something wrong at home? Oh, his mind was racing in every direction at once as he walked through the empty hallways down to the main office. As he rounded the corner to the school's large central lobby, the intercom system crackled and chirped. The school's secretary said, once again, in the voice of an old lady robot, Winston Breen, please report to the office. Winston Breen, to the office. Boy, whatever the reason was, they sure wanted to see him. He bit his lower lip and tried to prepare himself. When he reached the main office, Mrs. Lembo was still returning to her desk from the PA system. There you are, she said. Yes, I'm sorry, said Winston. Well, go right in. Mr. Unger is expecting you. Now, the principal's office was down a short hallway, ending in a door that you never wanted to open. Winston had never had a reason to knock on this door, and that was fine with him. He took a deep breath, knocked softly. Come in, said a brusque voice. Winston creaked the door open. Mr. Unger was not behind his desk. He was up and pacing. Ah, Winston, good. Thought maybe you were absent today, or cutting class. Winston recognized that was a joke, but he didn't know how to respond. Yes, no, I was. But Mr. Unger wasn't looking for an explanation. You're still a puzzle person, right, Winston? Sure. Winston had shuffled entirely into the room now. He watched the principal pace back and forth, glancing occasionally at a piece of paper in his hand. When Mr. Unger walked at the halls in his gray suit and shiny shoes, he looked like a frowning, severe authority. Now he didn't look stern at all. In fact, he looked rather like... Winston could hardly believe it. He looked like an excited kid. All right, good. I want you to look at this. Here. And Mr. Winston thrust a piece of paper into Winston's hand. It looked like this. We're not going to stop right now because it tells us to keep reading to get the directions. What does it say? Winston asked. Mr. Unger didn't respond. He just handed the envelope over. Winston looked at the front. No postmark. No stamp. Oh. He decided to sit in one of the two chairs in front of the principal's desk. Oh, you know what? I skipped a part. Let me go back. So after he had seen the paper, Winston said, "It looks like some kind of code. Where did it come from?" Mr. Unger shook his head. "Don't know. It was in my mailbox this morning with no return address." Winston asked if there was a postmark, and that's what we read about. He decided to sit in one of the chairs in front of the principal's desk. "Someone must have come in and slipped it in my mailbox," said Mr. Unger. "I guess that means it's from somebody nearby," said Winston. Unger nodded his head. I guess so. I'll ask if any of the secretaries saw anything, but the main office is busy all morning. Anybody could have come in and put something in my mailbox. Can you figure out what it is?" "Oh, gosh, I don't know," said Winston. "It could mean anything. Maybe it has something to do with a map." "A map?" the principal repeated, not understanding. "You know how maps have letters across the top and numbers down the sides so you could find locations on there? Kind of like a battleship game board." "Ah, yes," Mr. Unger said, sitting back in his chair. "Coordinates. So we need a map. A map of what? The town?" "I don't know," said Winston again. "Maybe." "Well, I could have Mrs. Lembo bring a map in." Winston shook his head. "The problem is which map. The map in the phone book, the map in an atlas, a road map. They're all different." Mr. Unger said, frowning. "And we do need a map of the town or the state. Or do we need a map of the town or the state? The country? We could be staring at maps for the rest of our lives." "All right," said the principal. "Then what do you suggest? Maybe it's not a code. Maybe it's something else." "What?" "Another kind of puzzle, maybe. Connect the dot puzzle." "What?" Winston blinked. The principal leaned forward. "Can you connect these letters and the numbers in some way, like drawing lines between them? You know, start at A1, go to A2. Winston thought about it. It didn't sound right. But it was more than he'd come up with. But then he noticed something. There is no A1 or A2. The first pair alphabetically is, and he scanned the paper. Oh, there's an A4, but no A5. Said Mr. Unger. Winston said, "I still think it's a code." He stood up and started pacing, just as the principal had been doing when he arrived. "Each letter and number pair is going to stand for a letter, or a bunch of letters, or..." He drifted off, staring at the paper. A wisp of an idea had breezed through his mind, fluttering just out of reach. "There's no A5, he said again. Mr. Unger said, "Do you think that's important?" "Maybe," Winston said, rubbing his forehead. The first pair was C3. If that represented some other letter, what could it be? Maybe it was 3 letters past C, which read F. Winston's eyes widened. "You have an idea, don't you? Did you just solve it?" "I think so," Winston said, and told him his idea. The principal took the paper back. "So, J plus 5 is the letter O. S2. S, 2 letters later, is U. Q plus 1 would be R. And that spells 4, F-O-U-R, Winston said, getting more and more excited. They went through the whole code, counting the alphabet again and again like kids in a very strange nursery school. When they were done, they sat back and looked what they had written. So now it's time for you to finish figuring out what's in that puzzle.